Welcome to Mishna study Masechet Kilayin Perek Bet Mishna Vav. Over here in this Mishnah, we're going to discuss if a person wants to plant a field of assorted rows, just one row after the next, and he's not planting, fields of, different crop. He's planting one field, but he wants to do rows of another. How much does he have to separate between each row? Right? I would just point out, we know from later Mishnah, we'll get to it, that if a person has a field and he wants to plant a field of grain, he wants to plant a field of wheat, he wants to plant a field of barley next to it, he needs to separate 10.2 amot in between, which is approximately 15 feet, right? That's if he has one field and he wants to plant another field. Over here, we're not talking about two separate fields. Over here, we're in one field and he just wants to plant a strip of wheat, and then a strip of barley, and then a strip of oats, right? Just a row of each one. How much does he have to separate in between each row? A person wants to make his field row of every single species. Bet Shammai says you have to make, right, here's the picture of just a field, one row, each row, right, assorted rows. Bet Shammai says you have to leave in between each crop 3 tilamim of a patiach, right? Rambam explains this to be, Shoshav tilamim shel patiach is, he needs to, right, you see how Rambam used to draw a picture for us. He has min 1 on top, min 2 on the bottom. In between, that's how much you have to separate, which Rambam says is 3 cracks, right? A lot of times before the rain, you'll see the ground has these cracks going through it. So 3 of these cracks, the distance between one another, that's how much you need to separate. I saw Bartanura had a different perush, and that was 3 what you call it, 3 of those, where the plow would plow through 3 of those furrows. That's how Bartanura explained it. So I actually put both pictures here, but Hanabam explains 3 of these cracks, 1, 2, 3. That would be enough to separate according to Bet Shammai. Or according to Bet Hillel. So Bet Hillel says Milo ha'ol ha'sharoni. Milo ha'ol ha'sharoni is the yoke, right? A lot of times on the back of an ox, they would put this yoke that would go on so it keeps its head down when it plows. It's the one that's used in the plains. Sharon is the plains. So it's wider because he's able to hold a heavier piece of yoke. So it's a wider piece. It's about 2 tefachim, Harambam says in the Mishna Torah. He doesn't say anything about it over here. It's about 2 tefachim, and that's how much you have to separate in between each row. And the Mishnah ends off with Kruvim divrei elu, liot divrei elu. Bet Shammai and Bet Hillel are very close in proximity when it comes to the amount. They're pretty close. It's not that big of a machloket between them. But yeah, that sums up our Mishnah. So planting a field of assorted rows. So Harambam says you need to have, at least based on the Mishnah Torah, at least it's about 2 tefachim in between each row. Now in the Mishnah Torah, he does point out that if you do have the rows, they're separated and then they come together at the end, that's okay, right? That's fine. As long as there's one point where there are 2 amot away from each other, then that's allowed because it looks separated.